at this point, is this a good time for you to give us an example of that?
Yes. And let me just say, in the simplest form, let's say, for example, you come home after a day's work, or anybody comes home after a day's work and you're stressed out, especially if you have to drive on a freeway. You combine the freeway with work and the busy brains of making a living and so forth, and it can be a kind of crazy-making stew that we create in our mind. Literally, we are the chefs, you might say. We're cooking up this funny stew in our consciousness, and it affects us. So, but we can change that. We can wipe that slate clean very rapidly if we use one of the most important tools we have to remember that we always have, and that's free will. And fortunately, we live in a country that is steeped in that ethic of free will. The tricky part is choosing something that's healthy, a healthy diet that will create well-being. So let's just pretend for a moment you're driving your car in your driveway, you're beginning to anticipate walking in your front door, which is actually your temple. Your house is actually your sacred temple or castle. And once we walk in the front door, there's already a sense of ease because work is behind us, the highway is behind us, we've turned off the car, we're beginning to enter into a place of well-being just by walking in our front door. The important thing to do in walking into your front door is not take the world with you through the front door. The world of work, the world of freeway, the world of whatever it may be. But we have to consciously, in our own minds, choose to go to a different place. If we immediately go to the TV and turn on CNN, this isn't going to work. Because if we do that, we bring the world into our castle. So what we have to do is come in our front door if we're truly seeking well-being and make a conscious choice to go to a place of well-being within ourselves. Now, it's tricky if you come in the door and you have your partner waiting for you, or you have a noisy child waiting for you. I know that's a tricky thing. What we have to do is create a strategy in advance so that either our partner or our family members know that there's going to be a time for reflective quiet at some point.
So a time when you can go to your inner sanctuary.
Right.
Your place of well-being and kind of like just be.
Right. Now, the question gets asked, well, what if I have my wife waiting for me, she's had a busy day, or if the kids are playing and watching Sesame Street and the atmosphere is kind of crazy. Well, you don't walk in the front door and start making demands of your family. Right? That's not necessarily going to create a peaceful environment. Another alternative might be if you have a home that has some nature around it, don't even go in the front door until you've had a chance to maybe sit on the patio, look at the ripples on the water of maybe a little reflecting pond that you might have. Just look at the flowers you have planted in your backyard. Maybe even put on a little music on your tape recorder or your CD player that takes you into a visionary inner reality that you like. We all have memories of places we've been to that were special and we like. Anybody is capable of sitting down in the quiet, separate from family activity, and recalling a pleasant memory of a vacation or an event that gave us joy and peaceful welcome.
Yeah, it sounds like some people may need to actually go somewhere else before they come home.
There's all kinds of strategies. Some people like to listen to, CDs on the on your CD player in your car coming home. That's a wonderful transition device. There are many, many strategies. The point I was trying to make to begin with is to disengage from the world of work, find a way of disengaging from whatever those stress triggers might have been, so that you can begin to create this transition strategy. Now, there are much deeper levels of meditative practice that I'm trying to introduce people to, so that you don't have to always rely on technology. You don't have to always rely on location or circumstances. The real powerful way to create self-mastery, and it takes some practice to do this, I know, is to be able to do that at will in any location, any social circumstance, whether it's work or in a family setting or not. That is the acid test for the conscious mystic, what I'll call practical mystic, to be able to accomplish that. And that's the place I'd like to be able to take my readers to, so that no matter what the circumstances are, you're always at peace. Most anybody can go to, Yellowstone or Yosemite or to the beach and feel good and feel like they're on vacation and peaceful. But to be able to take that experience to work or on the freeway, that's the real acid test, and we're all capable of doing that, believe it or not.
And you can give us an example of that right here and right now.
Absolutely.
Okay. I think this will be a good place to insert that clip of you doing the guided imagery.
Okay. Let me do this first of all.
Sure.
Let me do a little introductory statement, and you can edit this portion out.
Okay.
And I'll just begin again, okay?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Don, before we enter into this little guided visualization process for what I'll call harmonic well-being, let me preface this by having our viewers remember something important. What I'd like for our listening audience to remember is that most of our reality tends to be created from the outside inward. In other words, through our eyes and ears and sense of touch and sensation, most of us respond to life from the outside in. In other words, we respond to a red light at an intersection, or to what our boss gives us as an assignment, or maybe a crying child or something like that. And those situations don't necessarily have to conjure up any level of stress or reaction at all. We can choose to respond or react. And there's a difference between an emotional reaction or a response based upon harmony. And let me just give you an example. If, for example, you come in to your house and your partner, your wife or friend or whoever is there, and they say to you immediately upon opening the door, "I really had a lousy day and I'm going to tell you about it." Well, we have an opportunity to either react or respond. If we say to ourselves in advance of opening the door, or even hearing our partner say anything, and say, I choose to be fully present in love and in compassion to this person, without any agenda, without any judgment in advance. I allow myself to respond in love to begin with. Then, when that person says, "I have had a lousy day," we can immediately say to them, "I understand this. Tell me what's going on so I can help you." Then we've started our relationship response to them in a positive, compassionate way that will always lead to a good outcome for the person we're talking with, and even ourselves, because what we've done, we've let go of our need to be right or to be better than or any other ego response that may be less than constructive. So that's what I mean, Don, when I say in advance of any kind of meditative practice, which in a sense is an escape device, in a sense, if we can take this ability to respond in a constructive way into all circumstances, we are beginning this practice in the most constructive way possible.
Okay.
Did you see what I'm getting to here?
Right.
This way, we're not just putting a Band-Aid on a problem. We're actually solving a problem in advance, and this will always lead to a constructive outcome.
Right, because it's only a problem from the perspective of where we're seeing it. If we change our perspective, then it's no longer a problem. It's because we're coming from our own divinity.
That's exactly right, and I'm glad you're giving voice to that. We're coming from our own innate divinity. We're creatures of the great source, the great creative source. Call it God, Yahweh, whatever descriptive word we choose to use. We're creatures of the creation. We were created perfectly in divine similitude, and we can return to that remembrance at will if we choose to. One of the things I like to tell people, because there's a lot of victim thinking out in the culture, especially these days, it's very easy to take on a victim consciousness. And that is a rabbit hole in Alice in Wonderland's little journey that can take us into some pretty dark places. And I tell people to at least cultivate the idea to come to the realization that we have 100% responsibility for the reality that we're living in. Now, this may not sound like a warm fuzzy initially, especially if people have economic stress in their life or relationship stress or psychological turmoil going on. It's easy to think, oh my goodness, what kind of reality have I created for myself? But almost overnight, we're capable of turning that whole thing around if we realize through the power of free will and the power of our attention and invoking this unified field that Einstein used to talk about, that I'll just call the divine presence. We can turn that reality around very rapidly with focused attention, free will, and simply a willingness to allow it to be true.